It's May 12th, 2017, and today I graduate from college. But right now I'm here for class, and I could complain that I have a class on the same day I graduate, but uh, for one, I'm just glad it's over, and for two, I'm the one who set up my schedule, so I can't really complain about that.
I've been going to school for 16 years now. I started going to school at St. Clement in Centerline, Michigan, which I don't even think it's called St. Clement anymore. But that was my first introduction to going to school, and I remember thinking, for some reason, in my little boy brain, that I only had to go for a few days and then I was done. And then when a few days passed and I figured out that that wasn't the case, I was like, well, this kind of sucks. And that was how my relationship with school began. Then in first grade, I switched over to a public elementary school, which was just down the street from me, but it was under construction at the time I was starting, so I spent my first half of my first year at a different building, which I don't know where it is or if it even exists anymore, and I'm kind of too embarrassed to ask. The curriculum was a bit different from what I was used to. Like, I couldn't read, my counting wasn't up to their standards, and they actually thought that I was cognitively impaired. And then when they tested me, well, for modesty's sake, let's just say that I was above average. But that didn't change the fact that I had to make all new friends, and my social skills have never been amazing. So for most of elementary school, with a few exceptions, all my friends were just people I knew in my neighborhood who were all a lot older than me. And then around fourth grade, I found myself all alone, and I was forced to try and make friends. And I did that using humor, which I think that's usually how comedians are born, is because, I was a 4 foot tall kid with glasses and a mullet, and I had to figure out how to find my way into this social community that was my school. And the best way I could do that was by making jokes. Then that brings us to middle school, which I blocked most of middle school out because, as those of us who have gone through that experience know, that's a very awkward point in your life. That's when your mind and your body is starting to mold into what is something resembling an adult, and you don't have the experience or the wisdom or the knowledge to know how to cope with that or to even understand what it is you're going through. All I remember from middle school is the rise of social media. Everyone was using Facebook, Twitter was starting to become a thing, and that was actually where the seed was planted for me to become friends with Awestruck Fox, or Kevin, down the line. Once I got to high school, I was in marching band, which that was where I made a lot of my friends that I had in high school, at least for the beginning, because outside band, I was a awkward mess. I was that long-haired kid who wore wrestling shirts and had a beard, even though he was only 14, and I was still developing a very raunchy, out there sense of humor that a lot of people didn't get. So I just kind of became the weird kid. And it took me a while in high school to adapt to the social climate, and then even when I did adapt, I didn't really thrive. I was never a sports star. I did wrestling for a year when I was a freshman, and I was still a scrawny little kid who couldn't really do a lot. And even though I was in band, and even though I knew how to play guitar, I never really showcased any of that musical talent, and a lot of the talents I had, I kind of kept to myself. The only thing I really shared with people was my humor. I never really showcased myself musically or athletically. In fact, I barely even showcased my academic skills. In fact, there were points in high school where I actually considered dropping out because I thought I could put myself to better use if I just completely forgot about school and went out to do something else. And the only reason I continued to be in school was because in junior year, I got into college, more specifically the early college program. So my junior year, I was only in high school for 3 hours a day, and then I would go off to take college classes the rest of the day. And then the same thing senior year, except with only 2 classes. And then this year, I went to college full time, and now less than a year after graduating high school, I have a college degree. And even though in high school, I was never popular, I was never nominated for Homecoming King or Prom King, I never performed in a talent show, I was never a sports star, I was never the top of my class. When I got in the early college program, I had teachers who didn't think that I would last 1 semester. And just this past semester, I was on the dean's list. So now I've turned in my books. So now it's like, you know, we're basically done. I just got this one more class for like an hour or 2 hours maybe. And then this afternoon, I come back here and I graduate. So that's where we're at right now. And do I know what I'm gonna do next? Not entirely, but we're gonna see. What I want people to take away from this is that life doesn't go as planned. This is where I ended up, and I'd like to say I did pretty well for myself. My shortcomings, my mistakes, and my weaknesses, they didn't disqualify me from success down the road. They didn't stop me from becoming who I am today. When you're in high school, you're in the mindset of right now, everything is so important. All my classes are so important. People liking me is so important. It's so important for this girl to be my girlfriend. It's so important for me to take this girl to prom. It's so important for all these things to happen. When it's all said and done, none of it matters. I'm 19 years old, a college graduate, and a somewhat passable YouTube celebrity. And I got here not because I'm any better than anyone else. Just like anyone else, I have skills and I have talents, but I also have weaknesses, and there are things I don't know. The difference between me and the next person, my ability to take my strengths and make that into something that can benefit not only me, but hopefully the people around me. What got me here is a confidence in myself and the ability to not care what people think. If I had listened to everyone who told me that I was going to fail, if I had listened to everyone who told me I wasn't good enough, then I wouldn't be here. If I had listened to everyone who told me that I wasn't funny, that I wasn't talented, and if I listened to the people in the comment sections who tell me that I should stop doing what I'm doing, then I wouldn't have made it this far, and I wouldn't continue to keep going. And as long as I keep going, I can only become more successful, and I can only get the resources to do even more. So at the end of the day, the only person who decides what you can and cannot do is you. Thank you.